right, John Gunnell. Indiana track runner, high school track runner back in the day. Ran at Indiana University, 2005 to 2009. Got into coaching the first stint from 2010 to 2013, and then the second stint from 2020 until now. So I'm currently the head coach at Pike High School, and yeah, just a fan of track and field.
That's awesome.
The
That's
Okay. Well, you said you had two stints. How'd you get into coaching?
spirit of track and field got me into coaching. No,
right.
so
I mean, hey, that's a
It
Yeah, no,
happens.
it's actually a funny story. So a kid who was at Pike was looking to break the my school record in the 400, and he didn't know that a friend of his is the younger brother of a friend of mine. So he brought him down to my house, and we chatted up a little bit and whatnot. And then apparently he went back to the coach and said that he met me, and they asked what I was doing, and I wasn't doing anything. So my friend's younger brother, who brought the other kid to my house, said, "Hey, Coach Goss wants to talk to you. He wants to know if you want to come out and coach." So I was kind of like, "Sure, why not? I'm not doing anything else. I just graduated college, so my schedule was more than open. So I went to the school, saw the guys, saw the talent, saw where they could use me, and then yeah, got hired, and that was it. Went from there.
Okay.
so you made the joke, but it's a joke that we all can relate to, even as a joke is you got into coaching because you love it's a spirit of track and field. So what is it about the sport that, gives you that rush or we're all smiling when you say that because we can relate. So
It's funny. A former teammate and still a good friend of mine asked me that same question back in the day. Well, I say back in the day, but he asked me, he was like, why are you so good at track back then? It's like, man, I don't know. It really what brought me to the sport is like I saw it on television and I never knew what I was watching, but looking back at it, and of course I had to ask my parents, and it was when I first saw the 92 Olympics. And I was like, I think I was watching distance runners, but I thought that that was really cool. And I just remember having that idea and thought in my head. And then when I got older, and older, I mean first grade, second grade, my dad drove by a school and I saw a track and nobody was on it. It was just empty. And I just said, I'm gonna do that. Like I just knew I was gonna do that. I didn't know what that was, didn't know the rules, only saw it a handful of times on television. And I got a little bit older, found out it was track and field. This is what it was. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's the thing I saw on TV. And then yeah, went out and first to start out with field day, and then I got to sixth grade, and that was my first organized track team, and yeah, went from there.
Cool. So with coming from just being a spectator to now being a head coach, how has life evolved with or your interaction with the sport? How's that evolved since then?
What do you mean? Can you clarify a little bit?
So like if some people like you're an athlete, right? So you ran, I ran. But as we got older, it was like you just looked at the sport differently. So then I went into coaching. I was head coach, and now I'm kind of like I'm an assistant now. I'm just a specialty guy now. I'm supposed to be retired, but I'm just saying, how you move through this thing. Like, what's the evolution of you as a coach? Was it I was an assistant, now I'm a head, and now I have this core philosophy, and this is what I'm looking at developing.
Well, when I got into coaching, I looked at it like I want to accomplish stuff now on the other end of the sport, right? I mean, me personally, I still left a lot of track accomplishments on the table. Most of it was out of my hands. That is definitely a story for another time. But when I got to be a coach, it was like, okay, I challenged myself. Like, do I really know what I'm talking about? Or am I one of those people that was like, I'm good at this and that's it, you know?
mhm.
So I'm like, okay, can I take what it is that I know, what it is that I kind of feel, if that makes sense, and can I pass that on, right? Because I know, because I've heard other athletes in other sports talk about how like they felt inspired by their coach or their coach made them think of it a different way. And I was like, okay, do I have that? And I didn't know what that was, but I'm like, heck, let me just go out here and see. So that's how I started out coaching. So I would have been what, 23 when I started out. And then I got hit with the reality of as time passes, things change. So like, what motivates you doesn't motivate anybody else, or should I say others. And like that's not just like a generation, like or sorry, that's not just like what motivates you doesn't motivate anybody else within your sphere. That's like also generational. And I learned that coming back because it was like even though the kids weren't that far apart from me, and we were 5, 6 years apart plus, like they looked at things a tad bit different. And then when I got away from it, and then I came back, a lot of stuff had changed. So when I was trying to kind of pick up back where I left off in 2013, it was like now 2020, right? Now us as adults, 7 years is not as long as it is to a child, but these kids were vastly different in how like approach things from the very beginning, right? Like, from my generation, we got into sports having, you know,
Mm.
sports idols like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Peyton Manning, people like that who was like, we're going to go in here, we're going to win, we're going to get the championship, and when I first came back, there was still that, but it was still kind of we want to be more of a team and we kind of want to hide amongst each other. So it was like, okay, how do I talk to that, right? Well, then when I came back in 20, it was like an entirely different thing, right? Now it's like people who are my age are now the guys who inspire these kids. Now it's like, like they kind of know Kobe, but they know old Kobe, and like they know like LeBron and Steph and KD and people who are like my age, and it's like, all right, like how do I communicate with them? It's like in certain things are just lost just through time and approach of the sport. And kids now kind of want more, they want more flash, sort of like, look how cool this is, look how cool that is. And it's less about, other things. And I wouldn't say that's necessarily bad. I don't agree with it, but trying to talk to that presents its challenges too. So, kind of going through the timeline of the generations has really caused me to reassess consistently. I'd probably say it seems like there's like some 5 year cycle that you kind of got to go back in and kind of talk to the kids, talk to the athletes who are coming out of middle school and kind of seeing where their frame of reference is, right? Because, I heard somebody say once, as soon as you figure life out, you're on to the next stage and you got to reassess stuff. And I'm finding that kind of to be true when it comes to coaching. So, yeah, that's kind of been like the evolution of my coaching philosophy and how I approach it. Now, we talk about assistant coach to head coach. I'll let you know. Like this is only my second year, so I'm still learning because as someone once put it, when you're a head coach, there's a lot there's you're doing more head than coaching, and there's a truth to that. That's kind of a fine, I wouldn't say a fine line, but kind of a blurred line. And yeah, I'm still kind of working through that myself, how to not only monitor a team and run a team, but also to pay attention to the other dynamics that are going on. You'll pay attention to rule changes, pay attention to, a coaching staff and what they're doing on the field or on the track. And like, what are they teaching and how is that response? So how does that do with team cohesion? Like, it's like another level of thinking. So, coming from the sprint world, it's like, it's always been like, all right, I know all this stuff about sprinting. Like, let me just do my part. And now the head coach, it's like, no, you have to pay attention to pole vault. You have to pay attention to the throwers. You have to pay attention to the jumpers. You have to pay attention, to the distance.
Yeah.
And not just like, knowing what are good times, what are good throws, what are good jumps, but like, okay, if your coach is saying this and the guys are responding this way, you have to pay more attention to that. Kind of just well, see you on meet day. So yeah, I'm still kind of figuring that out, but
Yeah.
that's
Now,
kind of
are you the guys or girls head coach?
boys. Yeah.
Okay. Now, with that, so you just described like all these different sects, right? So how do you bring
Yeah.
about a strong team overall? Because you have, like you said, there's the pole vaulters, there's the distance runners, and how do you bring about and create a strong culture?
That's a theory I've developed that I'm working on right now. So in my mind, it works like this, because I've noticed this, and I'm getting this from college, because I noticed in college, a lot of the other, like the great teams, well, I'll say the great teams of yesteryear, I guess at this point, like like I saw it with Florida State, I saw it with Oregon, and I saw it with University of Arkansas. And it's, as I said, it's not just knowing what a good mark is in something that's not your discipline, but it's being there to support, right? Like I would see, like we would go like Tyson Invitational, right? I would see like, the pole vaulters for University of Arkansas would still be going. And it's like the 3K just ended. Well, then after the distance runners do their cool down, they would be there, clapping with the pole vaulters and, supporting the guys in the long jump. And it's like they knew what was good, but they also knew how to support their teammates. They knew how to be there to motivate. And I'm trying to bring that atmosphere into my own team through like kind of team meetings and like telling people, hey, you're done for the day. Go see what the shot put guys are doing. Go see what the high jumps doing. Go see what pole vault's doing. Hell, motivate the guys on the 4x4 to give it their last whatever. Four by four guys. They're usually 2 or 3 events in at that point. So I'm trying to bring people together just to sort of be aware of what is going on outside of like your little box. Some are responding to that and some aren't. I think there's a little bit of the historical view of track and field as a whole thing that I'm battling, right? Because everybody's kind of, we do our own thing and then we'll just look at the scoreboard and hopefully we win. But so I mean, I have that to kind of work against me, but I've seen it done. Now it's can I do it? If that makes sense.
Mhm. No, team camaraderie is really important. And so it's a interesting balance so that your athletes are paying attention to kind of understanding the ins and outs of what their teammates are doing and how that all contributes to your overall scoring. And so with the team dynamics, there's also you have those newcomers and you have the vets. So how do you balance your how you approach your practices and your training with the newcomers and your vets?
You're trying to maybe give away all my secrets, aren't you?
Well, again, you don't have to
Yeah, no.
We
you don't
want
have
to
to
know.
share all of the
No.
tips and tricks, right? Because you are going to have those that are, learning, which you're going to have those that need to be pushed in a
Yeah.
different way. And so, now you have that head coach hat on as well, but your intentionality already, you're clearly doing it with building that team camaraderie. But how do you ensure that even the newcomers are getting the same, focus and attention as the vets as you help them both?
Yeah. Now, again, I'm only going to speak for my team because while a lot of this stuff is universal, as you guys know, there's still certain things that happen to your team that other people aren't going through at the same time. Like I'm sure we've give it a 10 to 15-year block, we've all had this same experience. But for me, I try to separate the groups, but still keep them together, if that makes sense. So if I see somebody young who's like really fiery, and we have this a lot at our schooling, the freshmen, they come in having one or multiple significant middle school events. So they come thinking that, I'm all-star JV or I'm going to be in the varsity rotation day one. And it's like, no, they get out here, they get dusted, and then they're just like, oh man, like what just happened? But I don't want to kill that fire. So I try to put them in a group that they are as fast as or they're kind of compatible with either in mentality or talent ability. And I tend to kind of go towards more talent ability, but sometimes you just kind of have to have kind of birds of a feather, in my personal opinion. So I'll usually keep freshmen together-ish, because I want them to look at each other as teammates throughout their entire high school career. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. As you guys know, as Indiana track and field people, there's always the invisible, I'd rather play basketball and football aspect of sports. So even though you try to get a good core freshman team together, someone always wants to go hoop, regardless as to how good they are. Someone always wants to go play football, regardless as to how good they are. And then you have the people who are good at track and the people who like track, and then kind of trying to keep all of that together is a real challenge. But I kind of just play the cards that I'm dealt. But I really try to keep groups of people together so that they look at each other as teammates and not just, oh, we do track together, which that's I find that that's an easily broken team, if that makes sense, especially when the times get hard and you really got to dig down deep and support each other. If they look at it, again, it's like, oh, like that's them over there, this is us over here. That's where you start to fall apart as a team. So like I try to keep people together in whatever way possible. It looks different with each graduating class. It's like I'm going through that cycle now. I'm losing some seniors who they look at each other as teammates, but their dynamic is completely different from the freshmen and sophomores. So it's like I kind of have a little bit of a gap, but it's fine because it's like it's the upperclassmen who are doing their thing, the younger classmen doing their thing. So we can kind of focus on the younger class and kind of cultivate their dynamic and then kind of move forward with that.
Yeah. So as you look to the future, like what are some of the goals you have set for your program?
Oh man, that's easy. State championship, man.
Yes,
Always try to win that state
absolutely.
championship.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been chasing that state. I've been chasing the team title since I was in high school. I knew what that was. I ain't gonna lie.
Mm-mm.
Jury's still out on that one. That's always the goal. But right now we got to take it one step at a time. So we're trying to get some sprints together. I feel like that's a weak part of our game right now. That I strongly feel like that's going to change. And our field events are doing a lot better. Our distance is doing a lot better. So yeah, just kind of getting these guys to kind of see, kind of go back to a previous question, kind of getting these guys to see themselves as a team. Like I have to hold up my area, and then everybody holds up their area, and then it kind of comes together. But yeah, that team title, that's woo. I'm trying to get that. I ain't gonna lie.
Right.
Absolutely.
Good
That's
deal.
all of our dreams. Yes. How do you keep your athletes healthy, right? It's, you got the dynamics of,
That is an ongoing process, and it's funny because you mentioned how do you keep them healthy? It's the lead a horse to water thing, if you ask me, because a lot of our injuries are just people not doing what the coaching staff tells them to do, right? It's like we got pulled hamstrings, we got tweaked ankles, we got this, that, and the other, and then it's just like, it's like, are you okay? It's just like, yeah, coach, I'll be all right. It's like I just gotta, maybe I should stretch more. It's like, did you stretch before you did X, Y, and Z, or did you stretch after? It's like, oh well, no. It's like, when was the last time you stretched? Maybe been 4 days ago. It's like, right? Or what'd you have for lunch today? I had a half of a chicken sandwich and some water. It's like, what'd you have
yeah,
for breakfast? Oh, I had to skip breakfast. I was late for the bus. It's like that's why y'all hurt. So
it's true. It's
yeah.
true.
So for me, it's just like I just overemphasize, eat right, sleep, get yourself into a rhythm, and the guys who do it, and it's
Mhm.
not always the best people, but those who really want to be better, they listen to advice from the coaches, and the ones that don't, and yeah, those are the ones who are more injury prone. I mean, other than the ones who maybe get hurt because of some existential circumstance. I remember 2 years ago we had a guy get injured during a 4x2 indoor because he stepped on the foot of his relay mate, and he was out for a couple weeks. And it was just like, oh, really? He was one of our better
Mhm.
guys. He came in already,
Mhm.
moving, like running mid to low 22s. And it was just like, oh, really? And then he wanted to come back too early, so he started aggravating it a little bit more. But outside of those few and far in betweens, yeah, I just tell him, hey, take care of yourself. You have to do the things outside of track if you want to do the things on the track. And those that listen, listen, and those that don't.
I
So,
like
coach,
that.
if we were college coaches and we were surveying your team or at least snooping around, who would you say we needed to keep an eye out for?
This is not a public interview, right? No. No.
Sure.
Um, actually, I would say some guys to look at would be we have distance runner Matthias Smith. He's a real good kid, real ask questions. That's another thing going back to previous questions about, the generations. A lot of these kids don't ask questions anymore. They kind of just ho hum their way through the sport. But Matthias, he asks questions. He asks how he can get better. Him and I have talked a couple of times about what it's like being a team leader. How do you motivate guys? Yeah, so if he decides to run at the next level, he will be an asset to any team. I mean, whether it be D3, 2, 1, NAIA, wherever he wants to go, I think he'd be good. We got a thrower, Jaden Hewlett. He's really coming into his own. I think now that he has specific goals that he wants to accomplish, he's really hammering it. And by hammering it, I mean he's practically throwing his PR, if not throwing his PR from last year and the year before in practice. So we're looking for big things for him this year. Yeah, those are probably our standouts. And I think some other guys need to kind of make that change, like mentally first, before I
Mhm.
could recommend them to a college coaches. 'Cause, I mean, if you want to talk about sheer talent, I mean, our school has never been shy of talent, ever, ever, ever. But it's the guys who hyper focus in on the details. That's the rarity, and that's who I push towards colleges. Because as you guys at the collegiate level, um, smaller things matter way more than they do in high school. Like you can skip a meal in high school and still go out there and be, conference champion, county sectional champion, whatever. But in the collegiate level, you skip a meal and you're off by, zero point 0.3 in a sprint, or if you're down 4 inches in a long jump, that's the difference between, victory and sixth. So it's
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, pretty
um,
much.
yeah, so I like to push the guys who really pay attention to the small details, and if a college coach comes, kind of just take that assessment from there. But yeah, those would probably be the guys who I would say are collegiate conversation worthy right now. But there's still guys who I would say in 3 months, 2 months, that list would definitely grow.
Mm,
Right.
awesome. Well, we are excited for this season. We gotta have a part two for you for sure.
Oh
Thank you
yeah,
so
just let me
much
know.
for, yes, thank you so much for joining us today. We learned a lot about you, right? We see you at the meets all the time, and I'm like, I love getting to know our coaches and our athletes a lot more on this platform. So we'll definitely have to do a part two, Coach. We wishing you the best of luck this year. We've already seen each other a few times at some of our indoor meets, and we're looking forward to hearing some great things about your athletes.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm definitely different at meets. And I'm not gonna lie, even though I've been
You
out the
locked
game
in.
longer, I've been out the game longer than I was in the game, but I still look at it like I'm about to go out there and warm up.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll just be like, hold on, let me warm up real quick. Let me get in this 200. Of course, I know good and well I'll go out there and get blasted, but still, it's a nice thought.
Okay, it's the competitor in you. It's
Yeah,
the
it really
Right,
is.
competitor.
right.
But yeah, just let me know and I'll come back.
All
Yes,
right.
I
You
love
sure.
have a
talking about
good
track
one.
and field. I wish more people would do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. For sure.
All
Well,
right.
thank you. Well, we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks.